Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 33 of the Fair Housing Insiders. Today's topic is on Telecommunications Relay Operator and how do you handle that in the leasing office. So we look forward to hearing Kathy's comments on that in just a little bit. So thank you for being on our show. Please remember to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And we appreciate in advance that you share this with your team members. So an interesting topic today, Kathy, telecommunications relay operator, and how important it is that all staff be trained. It's not something that may happen on a daily basis in a leasing office, but they really need to know how to respond when a call comes in from a telecommunications relay operator, because those individuals are communicating on behalf of a prospect that may be deaf or hard of hearing. Without proper training, we know that they could do something inappropriate. So very, very timely topic. So thank you, Kathy, for being on the show. Any other context you'd like to provide about this topic before we get into our scenario?
One reason I think it's important we talk about this is just a couple of years ago, there was a massive testing campaign throughout the entire country that was put together by a fair housing group and a very active advocacy organization on behalf of the deaf. And in that testing, what they found was nearly half of the properties that were contacted by a TDD operator. What happened was when they got the call, they either hung up or they said, I don't have time for this. I don't know what this is about, and hung up. In the cases where that happened, there were follow-up lawsuits filed by advocacy organizations claiming that refusing to talk on the phone and provide full information to a prospect who is deaf or hard of hearing was basically a denial of housing because of a disability.
Right.
So that's why this is important. And there's just no other way around it other than training, role playing, getting used to it. So when it happens, anybody who works in a leasing office knows how to handle one of these calls.
Very good. Yeah. Thank you for that context. That really helps set the stage and paint the picture of why this is such an important topic. So let's take a look at our scene and we'll get your feedback on it, Kathy. So our scene is very similar to the scenario you just highlighted. A leasing professional gets a relay call just as a prospect walks into the office. So let's take a look at our scene and we'll get your comments on it.
Having a great day here at Main Street Townhomes. This is Chris. How can I help you?
Hello. This is the relay service. Have you received a relay call before?
Oh, yes. Yeah, but this takes a really long time, right?
I'm sorry?
Oh, I just had someone walk into my office. Do you think they could call back later?
This is the type of situation I was referring to in that big testing program that happened over and over again. The reality is that this is one of those situations that is maybe not so practical, and therefore that's why training is so important. If someone is feeling rushed, if they're feeling pressured because someone just walked in their leasing office and is standing in front of their desk looking at them, it may seem like the natural thing to do to get off that phone call so you can address the in-person prospect. However, if this is a relay operator call, what that will look like is that you hung up on the deaf person. So you could talk to somebody who was right there in front of you who could hear and talk to you. So the clear recommendation here is that if someone walks in the office and you're just on a relay operator call, that of course you maybe acknowledge them, ask them to have a seat, let them know you're going to be a few minutes, and then conduct that telephone call through the relay operator. Now, the reason this is kind of a challenge is because those calls usually operate slowly. The relay operator is talking and hearing in the phone to you, but at the same time, they are typing out your answers and the prospect's question, who is using a telecommunication device for the deaf. So they are having to type all their questions and answers while you are just speaking them. So it'll take a while, and there'll be long pauses in between the information. There are several points about these telephone conversations that you're having using a relay operator. And one of those is there is no need for the leasing consultant to acknowledge the fact that they are talking on the phone to a prospect who is either deaf or hard of hearing. That doesn't need to come into the consideration or the conversation unless it is raised by the prospect. So, for example, you don't need to explain that you have accessible units for people who are deaf or hard of hearing unless they ask whether you do or not. So there are things like that. Other than the conversation should just basically be information about your property, and then answer questions that come up from that prospect through the relay operator. Please don't try to cut the conversation short because you're impatient with how long it's taking. Don't fail to give information you would normally give in your sales presentation about your property. So with those maybe considerations in mind, other than that, should be the same conversation you always have with people over the phone when they call to ask you about your property.
Very good. Thank you for that explanation. Yes, I appreciate your highlighting just how important it is to take your time and understand that you need to follow that exact same process. Good training, good role playing, all that will come into play with this particular topic. So appreciate, Kathy, your insights on this. So that's been episode 33, specifically talking about telecommunications relay operator and some best practices to keep in mind. So thank you, Kathy, for being here on our show again today. We thank you, our audience, for watching our show and for sharing our channel with your team members and with your network. We thank you for your support. Until next time, we'll see you on our next show. Take care, everyone.